Connecting.
G'day, Michael.
Hey, mate, you all right? Hey, you've got the lot on.
Yeah, mate, I'm all kitted up. I've got all the, I've got the crazy suit on.
Oh,
So can you hear me okay?
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. I knew you'd go for it. I knew you'd go for it headstrong. You've got the whole outfit. That is weird.
Yeah, I've even got the, so I've got the avatar up. So when I set up, if it'll let me set up, so we can capture some data and debunk a few things. So be pretty cool and exciting.
Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool. So where should we start then? I mean, we could literally measure anything. I mean, you look like you're ready to go to war. This is ace.
I've got three systems, so I'm a little bit different to everyone else. My background is I'm a movement coordination specialist, so I started from a neuromechanics background of learning how to train and coordinate movement. So people think golf's special, it's not. Okay, when I've measured tennis players, and I can't, for confidentiality reasons, I can't mention, but some of these guys were the top players in the world, baseballers, any bat and ball sport or movement it starts from the ground up, is a kinetic link. So how you train coordination is no real difference, and you add the mechanics to it. There is nuances to all the different sports. However, how you create a foundation movement, there's no real great difference in what people believe. So for me, what led me to all this was having an accident years ago, going from being a good player, and I was shooting 108, and no one could tell me why. I was hitting along the ground, and I discovered a guy called Chris Welsh, and it started from there, and I followed him around America, and then when he mentioned the ground and how to coordinate movement, and within 8 weeks, I went from shooting 108 to breaking 80. So I knew there was something in that. So I knew there was mechanics of the golf swing. I knew there was coordination. So then I branched into not just golf, like I do running, cycling, do rehab for walking, all the different facets to movement. So, and I'm a strength and conditioning coach. So I come from a little bit different, and I am I was with the World Golf Teachers Federation for teaching golf as well. It's got a little bit of a different background. So my thing was how do you train an athlete to coordinate movement? Because when I looked at everyone, they can look mechanically sound, but why can't they hit it like tour players? And so that's what got me into this. So I've got three systems. I've got the Gears Golf. I've got a mocap system that measures things that no one else measures, like the center of mass speeds and things they don't measure. And I've also got a Vicon system as well. So I've got three systems to measure all different things. So squats, kettlebell swings, everything I do in this lab, it's not built on my beliefs. It's not built on my opinions. It's raw measuring. Okay, so every single guy, I know 100% that what I give them is going to, get them results. So. So what do you want to talk about, mate? The ground, or?
Yeah, let's start with the ground, and just that. Let's start with the ground, because that's a great place to start.
Okay, so let me
get it up and got ready for action.
Okay, so let me ask you a question, Michael. Did you know there's three main lower body breakdowns? And it's to do with the ground. Did you know that?
No.
You should, because I taught you that years ago.
I'm trying to make you look That might be.
So what people don't understand is, first of all, you've got vertical forces that go into the ground. And now you've got horizontal. So we used to call them shear forces. So how you apply force this direction and this direction. And they're talking about torque now. Okay. I knew that over 15 years ago of Chris Welsh. We knew all that stuff. And it's how they're only just getting into now how the center of mass moves. I've been measuring the center of mass for a very long time. So how you move your center of mass, right, to how you move it and how fast you move it and sequential time when you move it is how we interact. Now, they used to say vertical forces were important. I said no. Shear forces are king. I'll stand by that, and let's put it, next 5 years, I bet you I'm 100% correct about that. So the three lower body breakdowns, okay, is you've got a guy who spins, okay, and he's the one that when they talk about, you see he throws the club. Now, with his angular speed. Now, the reason he does that, if he spins, the only way he can get this club to release and catch up is he has to throw it first, okay? So the first one is the guy who spins. So what that is he lacks the ability to create shear force on the ground, so create horizontal forces. Okay, so what he does is more vertical, he spins, okay? The second breakdown is the guy who's got too much lateral. So you've got to move lateral, okay, so lateral's this way. So here's the guy that does this, okay? There's a difference between a shift this way and that way, okay? So he's this type of guy, okay?
Scott,
What's that?
Is there any chance we can move the camera down a little so I can see?
Yeah, sure.
Because when you're back further, I can only see the sort of top portion of your body. That'd be ace.
It's a better portion of my body anyway.
Oh, that's perfect.
So then the third one you've got is you've got the guy, and mind you, you'll find these patterns, research is yet to catch up to this. You'll find these patterns in a lot of other bat and ball sports as well. This just isn't to golf either. So you'll get commonalities in families. The third one is a guy who spins and slides, okay? So the three major breakdowns when you're looking at the kinematic sequence is how you use the ground, okay? So you've got to look at it that, you know, it's for example when they say that a guy creates a lot of lower body speed and he doesn't transfer it out through the link. It's because his lower body accelerates, doesn't decelerate and grab the ground effectively. Okay, to be able to contract the upper body of the core and then the lead arm and then internal external rotation to be able to then distribute that energy out through the club. And the reason I don't know that is because we did ECG studies many years ago and we linked in with guys like, his name's Dr. Stuart McGill, and talked about super stiffening of the core. So, you know, a lot of these guys, they say, oh, they've got high hip speed and they don't translate it. It's because they don't, there's two different kinetic links, okay? There's a superficial one where it looks like you can have a kinematic sequence, and then we've got what we call kinetic linking, okay? Kinetic linking, the reason we come from that is when we did ECG studies that you use the ground, so you use the ground, you accelerate the lower body. The ground pushes back at you and allows you to contract the core. And when you contract the core, it helps you control the upper body center, okay? Then when you contract the core, it also pulls on the hips, it makes it decelerate. Load up the lead arm, internal external rotation of the arms, coordinate the patterns, all right? If a superficial kinetic link is they can just spin the body, use the shoulders, use the arms and use the club, but they're not using the muscular coordination. So you'll see things like they'll slide through the impact zone or they'll spin their lower body out or they'll hip thrust and all that sort of stuff. So, and then the other, there's another one where you got another different sort of kinetic link is where there's a guy who is what we call rotational or horizontal who stays connected to the ground. And then you've got the guy like Bubba Watson who launches up. And essentially what that is again, is a Bubba pushes so hard into the ground that he extends up through the ground. So there's actually two kinematic sequences as well. How long's a piece of string, my friend, you know? It's just one of those things.
But how do you begin to start to train that motion?
So it just depends. So on lower bodies. So what do you want me to train? So you give me a scenario and I'll show you how to train it.
Well, so let's say that there's take one of those three links that you had a minute ago. They spin. They spin out of it.
They spin.
Yeah.
Okay, so if they spin out, let me just grab a ball. 1 second, hang on. Okay, so if they spin out, right, and it's all depending. So if they spin out, what you can do is you get this here. Now, you watch my lower body. If I try and spin it out, now, what we found when we use this, so anything else doesn't work, but this creates surface area. It creates the torque into the ground they talk about, and it creates when we measure this on force plates, it creates the horizontal forces they all talk about, okay? So if I get up there and I'm going to try and spin my hips hard, and you watch, there's no way knowing I can spin them hard, all right? So what that teaches me to do is that surface area of the Swiss ball, it helps me create and push and pull against the ground. Now what I do is from that, you don't want to keep that there forever because it can lead to other problems like stop people rotating through and after impact, which you don't want, right? So you only do it for a set amount of time. Then what I do is they do that over a 6 to 8 week program, 3 sets of 10 reps doing it every second or third day, because otherwise the body adapts too quick. You want to forget and learn again. So then those feelings that they learn into the ground there, we get to replicate in their golf swing. So then they get up to here in their golf swing, and the pushing and pulling they feel, they replicate it. And when you put them on force plates, I'll guarantee you that you'll get that same patterning. So if I get up there again and I just really use that same pattern, right, I just won't spin through it. Gee, I'll thin that.
And
let's have a look at that. What's that?
Let's get the gears going.
So what do you want to see on gears?
Let's see how the lower body. I want to see how the body moves on gears. Because we talk about what happens when we look at it in 2-dimensional. What happens in 3-dimensional? I just think it's fascinating.
Well, before we get into that, Michael, there's one thing I want to touch on is I see everyone talk about this right arm, okay, right, and the physics, right? So I hear people talking about, the golfer does this with their right arm, right? And they get steep and they get all this sort of stuff, okay? And when Sasha McKenzie talks about the physics of the golf club, the right hand should go up and the force in the left hand goes this way and it goes that way. We won't get too much in it because it'll complicate people. But people can't, every tour player extends their right arm, right? So why can't the average person do it? So the biggest thing is it's about, if we're all honest, no matter how many times we get the guy to try and throw their right arm, they can't do it, okay? If you watch me now, I'll show you something right now, okay? So I'm going to get my arm here, all right? I'm going to lock my arm up here like this, right? So see how it's locked in there? You can see it locked, right? Okay, watch this. You ready? So did you see how my arm just naturally went that way? How do you think I did it?
Straightened it.
No.
Go on then.
So what I've found, and I've spoken to Dr. Sasha McKenzie about this, is it's how you move your upper body centre. So if you've got a player, like most hackers, don't move their upper body. So when they get up, they get lateral, right? It's going to look like they're doing this. But if all of a sudden I move my centre properly, like my upper body centre, so not the chest, my centre, if I move it, so if I'm here and I move it right, see what my arm just did? So now my arm starts to begin to straighten. So what I'm starting to find is that when I look at all the tour players and I know the forces that they apply to the club from what Sasho's done, right, and I compare them, I look at them, it's how they move their upper body centre. So all the physics of the club, and they talk about shallowing, a larger mass pushes a smaller mass. That's physics, right? So this is what didn't make sense to me. They say, oh, you've got to apply all these forces through the hands. I'm going, well, how the hell, doesn't matter what I do with this, if this isn't moving in the right direction, the larger mass, this ain't going to move that. That's common sense and logic, right? So what I've learned for a lot of people is it's how the tour players move their body. So if I get my body here and I move this, look where the club goes. If I go at this, look where the club goes. If I go at that, look what the club goes. So a lot of it, what it is the arms move around the axis of the spine. Essentially, they move up and down and around, but they move around your spine. So how you move your upper body center is very important, and no one ever talks about it. So all those people, what you'll find, like even early extension, you know, it's that. So a lot of average golfers they either go this way or they go this way and then up. Well, as soon as you go up, you're stuck. So if I then move this the way it's meant to, so tour players extend, go into flexion, extend again. So if I go here, go into extension, bang. From extension to flexion, I'm going to create that width. So everyone's trying to use their hands, and it's like, well, if this isn't moving in the right direction, you've got no chance of getting it down the golf ball. Yeah, it's just common sense and logic.
And can we set up gears?
Yeah, we can set up gears. So what do you want to see?
I want to see how that moves.
With me or?
Well, I'm not bothered, Scott, you know. It'd be nice to see a good example of how the upper body should move.
Okay. So can you see that screen okay?
Nah, I need to get closer.
Okay. Can everyone else hear me okay, Michael, or?
I would think so, yeah. I can hear you great.
Do they have any questions?
Not yet, no, but if any come through, I'll let you know. Sure.
So let me just bring this up.
I'm a bit sideways at the minute. It looks.
Yeah, I'll fix you up in 1 second.
Okay, perfect. Use the TV screen. Someone put.
Yeah, I'll just fix this up a bit, mate. Sorry about my hand, guys. No, what's that?
Everybody says the audio's clear. They can all hear you.
Oh, that's fantastic.
This would be so interesting.
So I'll just put.
Rob Cheney just says he's enjoying the IG live streams. Glad you could join us, Rob. Where are you? Are you Singapore? I think Rob's Singapore or China.
Okay. All right. So who do you want to have a look at?
Well, a good one. Let's see one that works really nicely. You don't have to tell me who it is. If there's a confidentiality issue with who it is. Ah, yeah, Singapore. Thought he was. Lovely place.
Okay, so let's have a look at it.
Just need to get the camera straight now, because at the moment I'm sort of.
Is that straight now?
No, I'm sort of 90 degrees. The man's sort of.
Oh, you got to go that way. Yeah, righto. How's that?
Now just lower it down, then I'll see the screen. I just need to be a bit lower.
How's that?
Keep going. Lower. Ah, now.
Oh, hang on. You can see it?
Yeah, I can see it now. Yeah. It's not quite clear though. That's better. That's perfect. That's it.
All right. Okay, so if we have a look at this guy, right? So you know how they say tour players don't move to the right side. So Michael, this is something I've discussed with you before.
Yeah.
So for example, no tour player in the world stays absolutely centers a load of nonsense. So if we look at the left ankle and the right ankle, okay, let me just get my little pen here. Hang on. Sorry, guys. It's not coming up. Okay, here we go. So if I get my little pen here, okay, right, I've got that pen. Okay, so if we have a look between, right, so this is the stuff that, you know, this is what 2D can't tell. So if we look at the left ankle, right ankle, and you calculate the center of that, right, and we draw a line dead straight through it, right, you can see how far that player already is to the right of that.
Yeah.
So for starters, they don't stay centered. It's a myth. Secondly, none of them stay centered. They all move to the right side. So if we watch this tour player, right, and they claim he stays centered, watch how far right he moves, right? Now at the top, look how miles right he is. So to tell everyone to stay centered, on 2D video, this guy looks like he's centered, and this is a problem with 2D video, right? He does not stay centered. Now, if you're going to apply force to the ground, you've got to move to the right to move to the left to apply force to the ground. I mean, that's just common sense and logic, okay? So then if we watch this guy, it's how he moves his center. So when he moves his upper body center, right, this arm will go into extension, okay? So as soon as he moves his upper body center. So the interesting part is that they all move it towards the ball slightly. So when you zoom in, right, watch this center just here, right? He moves it in towards the ball first, okay? Now when he does that and it directs the hands, is what I've found, is this guy will be about 4 degrees inside out from doing that. But it's how he moves his center down the target line, okay? So this guy's one of the best, you know, players in the world. So it's how you move your upper body center to actually show the club. So if you watch it now and we go back to the top, right, and that's a myth too on 2D and 3D, you can't tell what shelling is, okay? True shelling is applying the forces to the golf club, okay? They don't, you can't tell on 2D. So what they're talking about shelling with these 3D guys is they're talking about this club path the hand path in relation to the club path. But that's not, when you're doing what Dr. Sesho McKenzie says, you've got to know what the forces are being applied to the handle. So I call this laying off. It's not true shelling because I really don't know if they're shelling or not. I only know this guy's shelling because he's been measured. Okay, so so if you watch this here, so as soon as you watch his center moves, right, as soon as his center moves forward, he begins to shallow. So as soon as I move that upper body center forward, he begins to shallow the club. Okay, so it's how you move your upper body center, Michael, that is the biggest key component to how people move the club around their spine. And what I find with 95% of people is, do you want me to show you an average golfer what he does?
You just show me there, Scott, on that one. When you say upper body centre, if his upper body centre moves that way, what's his lower body centre doing?
His moves pretty well lateral.
Okay.
So he moves a little bit to the right, but he's pretty centred. However, with this, you've got to understand this guy goes with a little bit of thrust, and that's okay. But he's pretty well centred. So when you find people use the ground effectively, they pretty well get a straight line if it's measured the centre of mass properly. I mean, they're all different, and you work it and you match it up with them. But what we've found is that it'll move pretty well in a straight line if they move it properly. Okay. So it'll draw a fairly straight line. I mean, different guys are different, but when I train my guys, you get a pretty well straight line. So, yeah. So, but it's all, Michael, the take home for people is play around with their upper body centers. It's how tour players, they all extend up on the way down, on the way back. They go into flexion on the way down. So this guy goes around about, I think, 60 degrees, is it? So if we have a look at the body data, what's that?
I was going to say, have you got the data on what that actually does in terms of the amount of extension and flexion?
Yeah, so,
Presumably, this is quite a strong player.
yeah, probably just about the best in the world, yeah.
Best driver of the ball.
Yeah, one of the best drives of the ball too. Yeah, he's pretty good. So, so if we go and we have a look, so he goes into, so the bend numbers goes into extension into negatives of the spine, right? Okay. So then on the way down, minus 21. Now I call this it.
How much
What's
rotation
that?
is he in there? What rotation is he in there?
The ribs are 110. It's pretty insane. The spine rotation is 70 degrees. Yeah.
His pelvis.
What's that, mate?
What's his pelvis there?
His pelvis is 41.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez,
Yeah. So the biggest thing on 2D video, Michael, is that people don't keep their head still at all, is you've got rotation and tilts of the neck, right? And what happens is even on video, even though it looks like the head's still, it doesn't move. So for an example, so you can see me, just quickly, is that if I stay in flexion like this, right, so forward flexion, if I stay in that position, what would my head just do?
moved.
Okay? So if I extend up, would my head, so if I extend, my head stays still. Okay? So these guys extend up, and the more you extend up, the longer the lever, the more work you get in the golf club. Okay? The greater the club head speed you can create, providing that you start from the ground up. So if we have a look back at this guy, can you see that screen again?
Go a bit lower, Scotty. A bit lower.
There?
A bit lower. Yeah, that's good. Can you go a bit closer? Just get a touch closer.
How's that?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, work. Yeah.
That's all good?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so if we watch him, and I call this eating the golf ball, so any one of my clients will tell you about eating the golf ball, right? So eating the golf ball means I want them to get down there and eat that golf ball. Now, if you trust it enough, it's physics. The ground will spit you out and you'll extend up again. So what the two players essentially do is they're fighting physics in a way. So they're trying to push themselves so hard and down into the ground, it's going to launch them back up. And you just got to hang on and pray that's going to spit you out, and it will. You just got to have faith in it.
Scotty,
So
does it tell you there how much raise he's got in his centre of mass?
How much lift in that?
Yeah.
Sure, it tells you here. So these are the numbers just here. So you got lift, thrust, sway. I don't worry about those numbers, Michael, because what I focus on is getting the right amount of extension at the top. So, and it just depends. So if we go here and we watch it and he goes down and eats the golf ball, so he drops down to, wrong one. So at P6, so what every single guy from the top that I know's got good patterns and eats the golf ball, right? Every single one of them, right, does not extend up until P6.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's at 41. Okay. So he's gone into flexion 60 degrees essentially.
Wow.
Yeah.
That, from what point did he start going into flexion?
So he goes into flexion at just before the hands get to the top of transition. So just about here is when he starts eating that golf ball.
Okay.
Right. So as soon as he does that, so this is what I mean. As soon as he starts to move, you watch the club change direction and bang, see? So it's how the upper body center moves, and it's the biggest contributor to how they direct that net force. You know, so it's how you move it. So it's how you move your upper body center. You know, it's just something I've found. You know, I can't validate that, but I can only go on what I've studied all these guys, training my clients, and the success I've had over the years. I just know that that's a magic number, and no one ever does it. Yeah. So if you,
So he now goes back into flexion by 60 degrees.
Yep. And then he extends up.
Which is interesting there, isn't it? Because he goes back into flexion 60 degrees, but his mass, I mean, what's the difference there, let's say at P6, with where his mass is and where the pressure is in his feet?
Okay, so I dislike the word pressure, but anyway, it's how you apply force to the ground. So what they're essentially doing, the best way to explain this to people is, I can demonstrate, is that, what do I do with Old Faithful over here? Is they're basically fighting forces. So what I've learned is that all the guys, they're pushing so hard into the ground this way that they keep on fighting. So they keep on moving this down and forward and forward and forward and forward, and the ground pushes back at them. Okay? What most average golfers do, they don't fight the forces. Okay? They bail out on it. Okay? They let the forces dictate them. So roaring that, what they're doing is they're moving as far forward as they can, and after a while the ground pushes back so hard you can't move forward anymore. Okay? And that's what it looks like when they're backing up out of it, but they're not at all. Okay? So they'll move forward, stay centered, and then just rotate through the ball. So what they're trying to do is they get up and they keep on trying to move that way as hard as they can, but force is kicking in. They're trying to move down as much as they can, and the ground's going to spit you back out. So they're trying to fight the forces in a way, going down as hard as they can, spit them back out, and they're trusting it'll spit them out. They're moving that way as hard as they can, ground's going to kick back at them, and it's going to take place. So what they're doing is they're using the force as best they can. They may not even know it, but that's what they're essentially doing. Actually, Roy does a good job explaining what he does.
Can we,
in a way,
can we see on there someone who doesn't do it as well?
Yeah, sure. Has anyone got any questions, or can you see that screen?
No, I need to go down and to the right a bit, or it might be down and to the left. I can see the top corner.
Okay.
That's better. I can see it now. You might want to get a touch closer if you can.
They can see it all right. They can hear me okay?
Yeah. Can you move the camera down a touch more? Just a little more. Yeah. That's
just there?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right, let me just find... Actually, this guy's probably watching, but he'll get over it.
Well, let's do it the same as we did it with the other one. There's no names on it. We've just got to swing.
There's no names. He'll discover it, but he's a good guy, so I can.
You know what swing's coming up next, don't you?
What swing's that?
The one that you posted on your Facebook about 6 months ago.
Oh, gee. Okay, so if we watch this guy here, right, is his center, he backs straight up out of it straight away, okay? So what happens with him is he goes into flexion. So in his backswing, for starters, he goes down into flexion. Right, so you can't see that at all. Okay, so on 2D video, it all looks great, right? But on 3D video, is the guy goes into upper body flexion, right? So
how much is there?
trying to find him. So he's only at 5.6, right? I look at this number. I'm not worried about the rest of it, right? But what happens is now what he does is if we go now, watch him extend up straight away, okay? So he goes an extension very early, right? So what happens is his upper body center of mass goes up and left, and you really got to know what you're looking at here. But if we zoom into this here, right, and we look at that upper body, right, watch this. It goes up and left and backs up out of it. So if you have a look at what the club's going to do when he does that, right, as soon as he moves that upper body center wrong, it just spits out on him. So see how it just get the club, where'd the hands go? Way outside, okay? The right arm gets trapped, okay? I'll see if I've got a little, an after of him is when we worked on things, when we improved that.
You wouldn't know how.
What's that?
You wouldn't know how much flexion he was in or how his body was working if you didn't. You know what I mean? On a camera, you could see certain things, but not to the degree that. I mean, you look at how that center's moved. I was just after.
So this is after. So now, which goal swing do you want? Do you want the one on the right or do you want the one on the left? So now he's got better extension, right? We're still a work in progress, right? So he's extending. So and I'm talking about, so this is how much change. You've only got to make minor changes. I've only changed him like 7 degrees. So here, 7 degrees, but it's a totally different. See how he's centered now? Okay?
Yeah. Looks different in his hand tap and his club.
Yeah, so now when we zoom in, and we haven't got to this stage yet, but if you have a look at this pattern here, go away. So you can see this going around to the left. Now it's starting, this part here, it's only a few millimeters. He's starting to move that upper body center towards, just slightly towards the, down the target line. That millimeter of change, mate, is everything for him. And that's what people are, you know, these minor millimeters, Michael, are so critical. And I mean, look at the guy now. Like here it is here, and he's nowhere near as bad. I mean, he's still a work in progress, but see how he's not going across as much anymore there, you know? But look at his club head speed. I've changed him. He's 90 miles an hour. When he come to me, he was swinging at 79. So I've got him an instant 11 miles per hour, or 12 miles per hour, actually.
That's
so money for Jam.
What club's that, guy? What club's that?
That was a 6 iron.
That's good speed then, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it shows you on there how centered the strike is as well.
Yeah, it shows you how centered it is. So that was a better center hit. So he got a lot of shots high out of the face. And he didn't move his center very well. But I mean, look at that. And look, this is only, so he's only done one session with me, Michael. So this here is me working on where I want him to, right? So that's the beginning of the session. And then by the end of the session, I jumped his club head speed from 79, right, straight up to 87. You know, I don't reckon he doesn't pay me enough, I don't reckon, for what I've got him. I'll stir him up about that. So, but by the end of it, see how I changed. So by the end of it, I got his extension. So, I mean, that was him by the end of the session. So I've changed to 5 degrees. I only wanted to change to 5 degrees because that's enough emotionally for him to overcome that. Okay, so you don't want to make... Yep.
Alison Nicholas, US Open winner, says, what physical stuff do you get? What physical stuff do you do to get more extension on backswing?
Don't need to do any more, Alison.
No. What would you do? What?
No, nothing. Absolutely nothing. You want the truth? Absolutely nothing. So here's the thing, right? Any successful athlete, right, that do not get good being in a gym or doing physiology and all that stuff, right? And then you're flogging a dead horse because you're in the gym trying to do mobility and doing all this stuff every day, and they get on a plane or whatever, their body's going to go back. So look, you can work in the gym, get stronger and faster, all that. The average golfer doesn't have time for that, right? They just want to show up, have their bacon and eggs, have a pint of beer and go and play, right? So this is what you do, Alison. It's quite simple, right? How hard's this, right? Okay, they're just here, just straight up. So here's my range of motion. There already. Okay, I've got to crush back. There it is, that simple. Okay? If people can't get range of motion, it's because they're in flexion. Okay? I have not found an old guy yet that cannot get to full range of motion. It's because they're not moving around their body. It's not true because this all rotates together if you get it moving right. So you don't have to do mobility and all that stuff. I don't have trouble with guys with range of motion at all. So it's just...
Your back was a right mess as well.
Oh, yeah. I was crushed between two front-end loaders. So at the end of the day, I mean, is it that hard? You know? So the best one, Alison, here's the best one. This is a big no-no, and they tell you not to do this, is just do this here. So get them here, right? And then get this straight to the sky, right? There's the tilts they all talk about. There's your rotation. It's that simple. You don't have to complicate it. So the thing is, a spine, so you've got to think of it this way. You don't want to compress the spine. So if you keep the spine compressed, right, you can't rotate. Extend it up. So if you extend the spine up, so get this going up, right, you got range of motion. Higher the hands, the better. I hope that helps answer a question.
You said yeah.
So, Alison, you can drink more wine and get more range of motion.
You can drink more wine. Brilliant. Brilliant. But come on, let's...
Well, at the end... Okay. Has anyone else got any questions? Or? So, can you see that there, Michael? Yeah.
Bit lower again, bit lower. That's it, perfect. Yeah, I see it now. Yes.
Yeah, so so if we where can I go? Let me find something for you.
You know what I want to see, don't you?
Which one?
One you posted on your Facebook with the slightly, how do we describe it? I don't know how to describe it.
Is it the Mac guy?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we can do that. So if you have a look at the red guy here in the right elbow, watch this, right? Straight into extension straight away. Okay, so he starts extending straight away. So when you move, so this guy here, as soon as I get moving his extension, he's starting to get that right arm to extend magically without me having to say boo to him. Okay. Here, if we go and we have a look, right, see how he keeps on pulling it? You watch this here. So he's not getting rid of it. Okay. So he actually just, he maintains that right elbow. He doesn't extend like the tour player, so he's not getting the forces applied to the club. So by changing how this moves gives him actual extension of the right arm. That's how it happens. It throws it out there. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah. So you want to see, was it
the some guys put maybe the guy you used as an example should get a discount.
I should charge him double. You know, give him that much. Give him that much club head speed. You know,
that's a game changer, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And look, Andrew. Michael. I've failed more than anyone else in the world. I'm the biggest failure in the world in the perspective of that. There's so much to this game. It's not just golf, you know, is that, you know, I've studied neuromechanics, the psychology, you know, all that sort of stuff and the neuromechanics, and there's just there's a lifetime of just learning this stuff, you know what I mean? Like, with my clients, I mean, I spend thousands of hours just studying and breaking down golf swings and learning it and studying how human motion works and trying crazy ideas, you know, like every week, every day I've got something new and crazy to try, you know. And you keep on testing it. And then what you do is don't ever put anyone in boxes. I dislike systems. I coach this. Well, if you coach that, you put yourself in a box and you've done a disservice to your client. Okay? Because you should be, man, I don't care, whatever works. And it doesn't. Because all the best players in the world, they don't have rules. But if you give somebody rules, right, then it stops their ability to learn and be creative. You know, like, just go and try it. That's the biggest advice, you know. I won't join any camp, or I won't go and do such and such as, you know, whatever, because I don't want to be I don't want to be in boxes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to remember, because I mean, this guy's got, you know, copious amounts of swings. I'm pretty sure this is the guy. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So this guy here did a lot of Mac, and what I see for a lot of Mac guys is that the belief is to stay centered, and I haven't got a problem with that, but it's how you accomplish getting centered. So what happens with this guy is a lot of guys try and stay centered, but what happens is the upper body moves in front and they back up out of it, Michael. So if you watch this here, his upper body moves way in front of it, and if we zoom in and we watch this, right, you watch this, his circle, he backs up straight out of it, and then I'll zoom it, right? So he backs up out of it and gets stuck, and he loses all his power, right? So he's at 75 miles an hour, right? So he's losing a ton of horsepower because of it. All right. So if we go back here and we zoom out, okay. So so you watch this now. So the upper body, you watch this blue line that moves backwards. So then he moves backwards. Okay. And then the club gets narrow, gets stuck in behind him, and he's going to lose all his power, right? So then over here, this is only baby steps, right? But see, now what I've done is I've got him centered. Okay, so now see how he's centered, right? And then he moves forward. Okay, so watch now. So he begins to move. See how he moves forward, and then he stays more centered. So see that?
Yeah.
So what I did is he hated me, but I got him feeling like his chest was over near his right foot. And it wasn't reality. You know, feel ain't real sometimes, you know. So for him is a lot of guys and a lot of golfers that try to stay centered, move miles in front of it, and they back up out of it. The worst thing in golf instruction, and I don't care who I upset, to be honest, the worst thing in golf instruction that's ever happened is telling people to stay centered. Okay, because it's just destroyed golfers. You don't stay centered when you play golf. Every tour player moves. They're moving in space. Okay, so the biggest thing I get people to do is say, hey, mate, just free up. You can move wherever you like. Do what you like. You know, have freedom, have movement. And then they can play golf. Okay, because golf is an unstable movement. You've got to move back and forth to create forces into the ground, to create rotational power. So, yeah, so what else do you want to know about this guy?
Oh, well, I was just interested to see how the centres moved, relative to each other.
Yeah, well, see, you can see the total difference on so if you watch the red, right, and then watch it now, so you can see now it's totally different. So see how the club, it lays off a lot more. So on the left-hand side. So here he's getting very steep and he throws it outside. So he throws it outside. So anyway,
I just find it. I just think it's a fascinating way of being able to look at something, especially depending on what it actually looks like in two-dimensional, and what you're saying is actually three-dimensional.
Yeah, well, I couldn't do what people do with 2D, mate, because I can't bullshit people. At the end of the day, I respect guys that can do that, but for what I do, I'm only changing millimeters, Michael. I'm changing just subtle little movements can make the world of difference. I can't guess.
How did you do that?
What's that?
How did you change that swing there on the way back to be centered properly?
So for this guy, for him so there's cues. So for example, if you've got an old car that's in the 1970s, right? And you get in the car and I say, Michael, start the car. What do you do to start the car?
Turn the key.
So there's a cue that everyone in the world knows if they drive a 1970 car, right? So how the brain organizes movement is it's got a filing cabinet.
Yeah.
So I give him a cue, and then every time he does it, he thinks a cue. So when he plays golf and he stands behind the golf ball, he just thinks his cue and it happens. So what I do is I find a cue and we ingrain that cue. And they'll do the movement every time. So what I got him to do is I got him to feel like his upper body was moving over to his right foot, to his chest but he's extending up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I get you. Perfect. Love
it. But there's a million things, Michael. So a lot of people, it's about how you set yourself up in the backswing. The backswing is to get yourself ready to start the downswing. So you've got to organize yourself.
Yeah.
So I get people organized so that a lot of people get the club to the top first, and that's why they throw the club first. You want the club getting to the top last, so the coordination of how they start their backswing's critical.
Yeah.
And then so what I do is I get the backswing coordination right. So I give them silly little stuff like so every single tour player in the world, when you say the one-piece takeaway, a lot of people use their shoulders, but tour players don't. They use their spine, they push into the ground and they use their spine first, right, to move, to create a one-piece takeaway. So when I look at Rory McIlroy, Dustin Johnson, all these guys, the first thing that moves isn't the arms because the shoulders are connected, right? So what I get my clients to do is I get them to load this up like this, create force here like this, right? And they've got to move their spine to move the club. So when you start moving the spine, right, then I've got rotation. So if I move the spine, see I'm already in position, bang, I'm ready to go. So I get them to move the spine first, hands last, okay? What a lot of people do is with the one-piece takeaway, they move their hands first. It gets to the top, war's over. They may as well go to the pub and drink beer. It's just, they're not going to hit it well. Yeah.
God, you're an absolute legend. Do you know what? I think it's great because you take this, I mean, you're there, you've got the kit on, you've got the gear set on. It's just awesome. Absolutely top drawer. You know, the only problem is we've run out of time because it's going to kick us off in a minute. But
is it?
Yeah. Do you know what? I'd like to do another one on another topic or find something that's, you know, we can play around with on the gears and show different bits and pieces what's happening.
There's a guy called Rob Cheney that's asking why is it not okay to stay centered. It's not that I don't like people being centered, right? It's the thing is how people's perceptions of being able to do it. And the problem with 2D video is that a guy can get in front, so I can go here, and on the 3D, it'll look like I'm perfectly centered, but they're that far in front, they move forward and they're going to back up out of it and they can't play golf. So the thing is, people then create the wrong perceptions with it, and that's what I don't like about it, because it stops people from moving. You know, I predict in years to come, everyone will go back to old school. You know, here, move up, move forward and go for it.
Somebody's put on here, Scotty, what's a good drill to practice at home? What's a good drill to practice at home to do it?
To do what?
That backswing. I presume starting with your hips first and then moving.
Yeah, well, this one here is great. This has nothing to do with absolute backswing, so don't worry about it too much. Is load this, get used to using the ribs. So it's just ribs. Don't worry about this. It's just loading, right? And I don't want you to try and get your hands in that position. All it is a cue to teach your body to start using the spine first, to move it and then move the hands last. So what I find with most people, it's hands every time. And that's why, and once you've done that, you can't have a kinematic sequence. So the tour players are this first, this gets there last, and then they can go. If this gets there first, they won't have a sequence. So most of the tour, what's that?
Somebody's put backswing and eating the ball. I think that's the drill. How can you get from backswing to eating the ball?
The best one, people just get vertical. I know coaches say not to do this. Who cares, right? So just get here. So get vertical, right? Get vertical from here, right? And then just eat the golf ball. And what will happen is your body, now when you train this, you go here and then eat the golf ball. What will naturally happen is that when you play golf, even though you're practicing like this and then eating the golf ball, what will happen is when you naturally take a golf swing, you'll extend up, but your body will naturally create its own tilts anyway and get in the right position. That's just my experience, what I've learned. So I do the opposite. Get people vertical, here tall, and then eat the golf ball, you get in the position. And so if you watch me now, so I just naturally get in that position anyway, I get the right tilts. Yeah. So the problem is when people try to teach tilts, most of the guys I see that get way too much left hip tilt and left shoulder tilt. Yeah. Way too much. Now, if you get too much tilt, you got to extend up.
Yeah. Got 1 minute. Scotty, it's been ace. Absolute legend.
Oh, well, we'll have to do this again, mate.
We'll do. We'll have another go next week.
When we're all out of jail and we're released back into society again, I'll get a few guinea pigs in and do it live, and I can show you what I can do with them, and
that'd be great.
See if it changes. Yeah.